Hi, and welcome back to Showing Up Whole, the place where we discuss alignment in mind, body, heart, and spirit in every aspect of our lives. Today, I want to jump into the conversation about manifestation, and I want to come in at a little bit of a different angle. I want to talk about your attraction point. I want to talk about disc work, and I want to talk about how you can start right now in living the life that you feel you came to live. That was quite a mouthful. Hi, everyone. It's interesting how often the conversation of law of attraction comes up or manifestation comes up. We don't often just call it law of attraction anymore. We usually do talk about manifestation or manifesting and really bringing in the good things in our lives. But the other day, I was listening to my daughter talking about a friend of hers, and she randomly said, because they've been raised with the idea of manifestation, she randomly said, oh my goodness, they had such a rough attraction point. And it was interesting because she talked about how people around her didn't really understand the term. And then I was later on talking to a client, and I mentioned, well, it's interesting to observe your attraction point. And they too didn't understand the term. So of course, when things start popping up a few times, I kind of think, well, it's probably a good idea to actually dive into that and explore that terminology. But I want to give fair warning that over the course of this episode, I want to take the concept of attraction point and then lean into how you can change your attraction point. And in that process, really create the energy and frequency of the life that you want to live. Before diving in, let's just review, shall we? What do we know about manifestation and the law of attraction? So the law of attraction's concept is simple. It is also based in quantum physics. So before you start diving into thinking that we are discussing something that's way out there, it's actually scientifically proven. So basically, the law of attraction is the understanding that you emit energy with your focus and your emotional state. You are a magnetic force. That energy flows from you. And then the universe responds and meets it and provides you with more of the same. Like attracts like. So sometimes people, I think probably almost always when people are introduced to this term, they automatically jump to the idea of, well, but what about really, really bad things? You're not attracting those types of things in your life. And I actually just had this conversation with today. See, law of attraction has really been coming up a lot. I had this conversation today with a neighbor, and we were talking about how, yes, that can be a trigger state when you start talking about things that are really, really bad happening to people, and how the idea that they, quote unquote, attracted it can really be triggering. There's two versions of this that it's really important to acknowledge. First of all, you are a spiritual being. You are a spirit having a physical experience. And your spiritual path begins far before you became human. And sometimes a spirit decides to come human in order to experience certain things, to expand and advance and understand a deeper concept of life. They often want to experience a contrast to something. And in that contrast, they learn a deeper connection. Now, sometimes when they get into human form, that contrast is actually so overwhelming that they forget that contract that they made before coming here. But it is important to understand that we are talking about a spiritual attraction. We are talking about a spiritual contract that is happening in that. And the cognitive, conscious brain of that person that is experiencing that tragedy, trauma, atrocity, isn't manifesting any of that on purpose. So it's not to say that they can't transform or utilize the experience for good after. And it's not a point that they can't actually take that energy and shift it. However, the creation of that event is far deeper than just simply were they feeling stressed one day and manifested something. We're not talking that. But I do want to switch over to the general stresses of your life, the general feeling of heaviness, the general feelings of overwhelm, and look at those. So when we talk about your attraction point, we're talking about your proclivity, your general state of being. And that is what creates more of the same. So we're not talking about the large extreme events of your life. Rather, we're talking about the general proclivity of your day. When you wake up, how you're feeling. When you're in traffic, how you're feeling. When you're just actually making lunch in the kitchen, how you're feeling. The general energy of your thoughts. That is what creates your attraction point. And when we talk about, your attraction point, it's always interesting to ask yourself, well, what exactly is my attraction point? And the way we actually can understand that and discern that is by looking around at the general events of your life. Do you get stuck in traffic often? Do you find the parking spots in front of where you need to be? Do you just miss the bus? Or do you usually tend to catch it just when it comes in? Do you have what's considered quote-unquote good luck? Or do you always find that you're talking about your bad luck? What is your general outcome? And it's always a fascinating thing to, without any judgment, without any feelings of insecurity or feeling like you're doing something wrong, because none of this is doing any of this wrong. Even if you always attract the worst of quote-unquote luck, this isn't about getting something wrong. It's just a question about learning through the contrast and exploring the observation of your life. So how are things going for you? Are they working? Are they not? And of course, if we don't want to dive too deep into what's not working, because the general concept is that if you explore too much of what's not working, then you're going to drop into the space and the feeling and the energy and the thought processes of what's not working and percolate that energy and build momentum around that energy. And the more you build momentum around that energy, the more you will shift your attraction point to that space. So we start off with the platform of just your attraction point, how things are. How are you feeling? And how are you feeling? How is that transforming out into your life? And that's the first observation when we start talking about manifestation, honestly, because what is manifesting into your life right now? We are continually manifesting. Every day is a manifestation. So start to explore where that's working. Now, you may find that you go, well, in my relationships, I'm really thriving, but financially I'm struggling. And you go, okay, well, that's two different attraction points, and that's totally fine. We have various aspects in our lives, which we know we talk about often here. And so therefore, we shift the different attraction points depending on where you are. Okay. It's important to remember that our brains love to take over and overthink this process. And instead of trying to figure out what you've been thinking, which is so often the conversation around manifestation, I encourage you to actually dive deeper into what you're feeling. Explore your emotional landscape. And actually, let's even simplify this even more. Explore the concepts of when you feel light versus when you feel heavy. Then ask yourself where in your life it feels light and where it feels heavy, exploring the attraction point. Okay, so you've done that, right? You've explored the landscape of your life and you've dived into observing how you've been doing so far. Let's remember that there's a gap, okay? You have to build up momentum. And that's why I ask you, how are you feeling in your day? Because that's actually the culminative kind of space that you've been in from the momentum that you've been building for your lifetime. So now I want to dive into this fascinating perception of this. And this is introduced a long time ago by Abraham Hicks when they called it disc work. This is something that I work on often with my clients because when you want to make a change in your life, you have to find the attraction point of that. You have to find the feeling space of that change. And you actually have to find the feeling or frequency, because when we talk about the feeling spaces, when we talk about, I'm using kind of layman's terms in this really, but when we talk about the feeling space or the mental space or the emotional landscape or any of that, we are talking about specific frequencies and vibrations. That is the energetic concepts of a feeling. It is when you actually resonate differently. And that's why lighter and heavier is such a powerful way of understanding that, because when you're in a lighter frequency, you can feel it as an open space. You can feel this energetic shift. When it feels heavy, you can almost understand it as that heavier, deeper, lower frequency. Okay, so finding the frequency, finding the energy, finding the emotional space of what you want is really key on this. So this is why Abraham Hicks explains it as disc work. So they suggest that you see it as a spinning disc. So let's imagine your life right now is a spinning disc in the atmosphere. It's this disc that kind of floats out there and it's spinning around and it builds up momentum, and it already has quite a bit of momentum going. And so therefore that's your attraction point. And as it spins, and I literally twirling my finger as I record this, as it spins, it's spinning around, and like a kind of a tornado, it starts to suck things in that are an energetic match to that energy. So you always seem to get the same thing, right? And how often do we talk about that? It's like, oh, that always happens for me. General phrases, right? So therefore it's building momentum, sucking things in, sucking the certain type of people in, repeat circumstance. And then all of a sudden you have a general idea of what you desire or what you feel called to. Actually, let's not even term it as desire, because often desire can be a sticky concept, especially these days. Let's talk about a pull, something that you feel called to, something that's nagging at you, something that you just feel you need to step into. And yet, you seem to always fall back into the same thing. Now, we can talk about neural pathways that, of course, neural pathways will support the built momentum on the disc that you're already on. Your brain sees that disc as safety. Your whole mental energetic space is telling the stories of that. So if we go through the four worlds of yourself, from a physical energetic world space, it is your nervous system keeps that disc going. Anything else feels unsafe. From an emotional energetic world space, you are attached to a lot of the different swirling energies that your heart has been perpetuating from that space. Your mind, the stories are firmly in place. And then you have spiritual energy. And That is actually the key here, aligning that spiritual energy to allow that to flow. That is really what perpetuates the momentum of this disc. So suddenly spiritual energy kind of falls into this space of inspiration. And you get that inspiration from spirit that says, you need to shift. Do you feel like you are continually seeking, trying to embody, to heal, to fix, and show up, but you always find yourself running on empty? Let's look at finding you more energetic alignment. There's a good chance that one of your energetic worlds, either your mental, emotional, spiritual, or physical, is out of balance. And with the right practice, you'll have you back in flow in no time. I'm Christina Fletcher, an energy alignment coach, and I want you to know that self-development doesn't always have to be another trip down a rabbit hole. Rather, let's figure out where your flow is blocked and go from there. Check out my free quiz over at spirituallyawareliving.com/quiz and find out where you do need more energetic alignment. Then we can explore what simple practice will give you that shift. None of us are in alignment all the time, so let's get you what you need to be back in flow, wherever you need. Well, how do we do it? Leaning in to the feeling spaces, the frequency, the energy, the visions, the imagery, the pulling force of that other space. And then we imagine another disc. And you imagine this disc that's where you want to be and how you want to feel. And you imagine it starting to spin. And you've got to kind of start building some momentum on there. What can you add to that disc? What makes you feel the way you want to feel? It can be as simple as listening to certain music. It can be as simple as an affirmation. It can be as practical as going for a walk and imagining you're already there of what that would be. It can be as basic as watching a television show that resonates with that same version. And you start to just build that momentum and you start spinning it and you keep adding to it. And ideally, you're going to take on a daily practice that's going to resonate as that. And you're going to start seeing the world as who you are on that disc. And slowly you find that it builds momentum and builds momentum and builds momentum. And the other disc that you've been on might start to lose momentum. I say might because you have to keep building momentum on the other disc for a little while. The old disc actually starts to get scrambly and it can often try in all its might to pull you back. This is basic homeostasis, right? That old disc signifies your sense of balance. It is your nervous system getting triggered. It is the negative chatter suddenly getting louder. It is all of those things that suggest that the old disc is really struggling to try to keep going, and it's trying to pull you back. So you've got to keep in a light, vibrant, gentle way because you don't want to get into fear, which sucks you back. You want to create lightness and joy and eagerness for that new disc and just keep practicing at it. And you build the momentum and you build the momentum and suddenly, before you know it, new things are flowing into your experience. Suddenly, a shift occurs and you realign to your better new version, your up-leveled version. And this, in my mind, is one of the clearest ways that we can understand manifestation because it's not something that is just kind of fluky. It is, and then when we combined mindset into it and we could decide to add practice to it and we decide to create this new system. Now, it can sound semi-easy. I say semi. But the key to this is remembering that it also means that sometimes you have to let things go. You have to be able to sacrifice old habits in order to create new ones. You have to be able to look at where you've been and occasionally shift to something else in order to create that momentum. And I mean, it can be silly things. It can be all of a sudden you have to change the television shows that you watch. And it actually, or it can be as simple as, well, actually on your up-leveled self, you have really nice underwear. Or maybe you don't have old blankets. So you might actually have to let go of an old blanket. And it can be as basic and even as material as that, because you have to find whatever it is that's going to help you resonate as that new up-leveled you. Now, some of you might be listening to this and going, but Christina, why are we talking about material blankets or underwear? Why are we talking about underwear? Here's the thing to remember. Okay, let's shift it to the spiritual energy that's calling you forward to realign. You came here for a purpose. Your spiritual self has come into physical form to expand and grow and move forward. You are continually learning. Your solar plexus, which is highly active right now due to summer solstice just passing, your solar plexus is burning, burning, burning bright. And that solar plexus chakra, like right in your stomach. So if you're having stomach issues or your digestion issues or you feel weird in your center, it's that solar plexus. And it is right now highly infused because of the solstice that just passed. So if you're in that space, that solar plexus, its whole role is to consume. It consumes all of the experiences that you have had up to this point, and it is burning it up. And what it expels from that, like what is forged from that fire, is your up-leveled self. So the spiritual energy that flows is asking you to up-level because that's what you've come for. You didn't come here to be stagnant. We've come to move forward, to grow, to learn, to expand spiritual energy, to love more, to shine brighter. That's what we all come for. And what's funny in that is that our brains, which are those wonderful human parts of ourselves, and also our nervous systems, literally get incredibly triggered when that change is called upon. So you find this back and forth, push and pull between human and spirit that can really come in. But if you start noticing things that you want to change and you want to feel lighter, then it's all about creating that new disc and that new attraction point. Because once that momentum starts going, you're going to start attracting things that are a match to that new up level. It's just the little jump in between. And this is why I say I help clients with this all the time. And I'm always excited by watching clients really latch on to that new disc, that really start resonating with that new frequency, because I watch as that momentum builds and builds and builds. Okay, so where do you start? It's summer, and it is an important time to be kind of leaning into the observance of yourself. Why? You know what? Ever since school days, I think we're raised to have this functioning in our brains that there's a break, there's a summer break, and if you're listening to this on the southern hemisphere, then I know that you're not in summer break, and I acknowledge that. And I know that you've also just had a solstice, and it's a different solstice, one that's turning within yourself. But still, winter in itself offers a different time for observation of yourself. So keep this in mind. During this time of a break, we have a natural tendency to suspend our reality somewhere. And that gives this perfect time to really look at the landscape of your life and say, what's my attraction point? Who am I? Am I fully connected to myself? Am I grounded in my body? Am I feeling safe? Because, by the way, you can't manifest on the next disc until you've taken care of your nervous system. How am I feeling right now? And it's vitally important to align your energy in order to create that new shift. Because the new shift, it's amazing how often September hits and I watch all these people kind of click into their new up-leveled version of themselves. And a lot of that work does take place in the summer. Now, I'm going to throw this out there because I'm actually really, really excited about it. And it's part of my own up-level disc is over the summer, I am hosting a workshop series called the Summer Sanctuary Workshop Series. And I am going to be offering a workshop approximately every 3 weeks over the summer. So the first one's on July the 6th, 2024. The next one is on July 27th, 2024. And the next one is August 17th of the same year. And each one of those workshops is going to take you through a different aspect of yourself. So we're first working on energetic boundaries and making you feel safe, making sure your nervous system is regulated, making sure that you are understanding your energetic platform, making sure that you can ground yourself and create your energetic bubble within any environment. Because too often, attraction points can be swerved or swayed by the people in your general vicinity. More about that on the workshop. Then the next workshop is going to be about your heart, listening to your heart, releasing anything that needs to be let go of from your heart, healing your heart, but then also building a deep, deep, deep relationship with your heart. And then we're going to be on the last one in August. It's going to be about your mental landscape and aligning to your own divine and really letting that energy flow. Every time I talk about this workshop series, I get more excited because it's just going to be easy and it's going to be flowing and it's going to be simple practices that you can be doing during your summer. It's going to be summer energy of deep alignment, and yet you're going to get the work done at the same time. So you can find out about that at spirituallyawareliving.com/summer sanctuary. And the link will also be in the show notes because I'm really eager to see people thrive through the summer. But that also really sums up where to start on this because it's all about making sure that you feel safe in your body so that you can make the new change. Observing yourself so you can observe your attraction point. Creating a space for your heart so that you're not bringing what you've been holding on to into your next vibrant self. Because sometimes energy cords get entangled. Energy from your heart can get entangled into other people. And that can hold you back because if they're on your old disc, then they're on your old disc. So, in order to create new space for your new disc, you have to know how to release that. And then, of course, there's that beautiful spiritual connection that flows in the stories that we tell ourselves that can sometimes let that in more or keep it out. So by realigning all your energetic worlds, and you know that you can take the quiz to see if you need that alignment or where you need it, then, and if not, then you can take the quiz on energy alignment, which is also in the show notes below. And you know that it's about feeling whole in yourself. So you find that wholeness within yourself. And as you find that sense of balance and calm and inner connection, and you resonate as your whole self, not the reactionary self, or not even the the spinning disc proclivity self. Instead, that inner self, the one that resonates as who you really are and is suspended from that head traffic. And then you ask yourself deeply in your heart, what next? What am I being called to next? What am I eager for? And it might be the faintest whisper. It might be something that is so random and so illogical, and you might question it. But from that grounded whole space, when you get that whisper, then you lean into it. And it is that leaning into that then creates that next energy. And you just practice it a little bit, and you play with it, and you invite it in, and you ask it to be delightful. And you ask the universe for a little more information, and it becomes a cosmic dance, and it is playful. I can't stress enough how playful and joyful this can be. And actually, the more joyful it is, the better, because then you are joyfully creating that new disc. And the vibration of that, the frequency of that is joy. And when it is joy, it is also love, and it is bliss, and it is satisfaction, and it is juicy. And that is what you want in your life. I've often wondered and talked about it with other healers recently of going, are we getting so used to the stories that keep us away from joy that we're almost leaning out of the frequency of joy and it is harder to find? So, I want to finish this episode today with a request. To help create more joy in the world, no matter what's happening in your life, what can you do today, tomorrow, this summer, that's going to help you resonate more with joy? And in that, create an attraction point of joy. And in that, create a new spinning disc that builds momentum on joy. What does that look like for you? What does that feel like to you? And what does that bring up for you? I'd love to know. So feel free to either share with me on any social medias, which you can find under @spirituallyrareliving, or drop me an email, Christina@spirituallyrareliving.com, or simply drop it into the comments of wherever you find this podcast. Let's connect. Sending you all my deepest love, light, and joyful energy. Until next time.